What's up guys, Brian here coming to you from the Gecko Lab, and today we're talking everything Crested Gecko incubation. So, you've got a couple geckos, you've decided on your breeding pairs, you've put them together and you're expecting some eggs. What do you need to do next? Well, the first thing you need to do is give your female a place to lay her eggs, and that's where a lay box comes in. Now, I'm not going to get too much into these because I've already made a really in-depth tutorial on how to make a proper lay box. Check the link down below to see that video. But you definitely want a lay box in your cage. This is where the females will go in, dig into the substrate, lay their eggs, and then bury them back up. In the wild they do this, smooth the dirt over so no predators know their eggs there, and then they just leave. That's it. They're not very good parents, I'm not going to lie to you. The eggs hatch out later, the babies are on their own, that's how it is. In captivity, we dig the eggs up and incubate them ourselves. So here's how we do that. You've got your lay box. This lay box here is from one of our breeding groups, and I do believe there's eggs in it. And now what do you need? Well, you need somewhere to put your eggs to incubate them. So there's two main ways to go about this. I use these bead containers. I get them from Walmart. They're in the craft section. They're made to hold beads for like art projects, but you can, any kind of small art stuff is what you're supposed to put in them. I put gecko eggs in them. They work great. There's a ton of little compartments. You can fit a ton of eggs in here. One clutch fits perfectly in each compartment, and then you can put a tag right on top so you know which clutch came from which pairing. They work great. If you don't have that many geckos and you don't need a bunch of these, you can use deli cups. For years, I used the 8-ounce deli cups just like this, the same ones I ship geckos in. They're absolutely perfect, they work great, and it's much better for a smaller number of geckos where you don't need a bunch of these sitting around. You just want some deli cups. Now, the first thing you need to do is put some incubation medium into your containers. I use either Pangea Hatch or Repashy Superfoods makes the same exact product called Repashy Super Hatch. Both of these are a clay substrate. They're a porous clay material that absorbs a lot of water, keeps your eggs moist, and they are by far the best incubation material I've ever used. I would not use anything else. I've tried a lot of different stuff. I've tried Hatch Right, I've tried vermiculite, I've tried perlite, I've tried all kinds of natural substrate mixes. Just go with this stuff. It works so good and it's so easy. You will not regret it. Now what you do, I've got a huge box of that for our breeders mixed up here. You just mix it with water, and I'm going to show you the difference. When you open this up, you can see, so you see how this side's dry? It's a much lighter color. That's why I love this stuff, because when it starts to dry out, you can visually see that it's getting too dry and add more water into it so your eggs never dry out. On top of that, they soak up so much water. As long as you don't have standing water in there, the eggs sit right on the substrate and they never get too moist, so it makes it almost bulletproof. So the way we do it is mix up a big tub of this, mix up water, and then we just mix it all together, and it works perfect. At home, you can mix up one little bit at a time, and that works great too. So the way you would do it for the smaller cup is pour some of this in, and then I would fill it up with water to where it's completely saturated, put the lid on, and dump all the excess water out, leaving just a little hole so the substrate stays in, the extra water goes out, and that's all you need to do. I would fill it up about 2/3 of the way. I'll show you with our pre-mixed stuff now. So I would just put in about that much. You want just enough space so when you put the lid on, the eggs are not touching the lid. They need a little bit of space because the eggs will expand and grow as they absorb moisture and the geckos inside get bigger. But it's that simple. Same thing with this one. I fill up each little individual cubby 2/3 of the way with moist super hatch, Pangea hatch, and put the eggs right in there. Make sure they've got a little bit of room to swell and grow, and it works perfect. Now, once you've got a lay box, your girl has laid some eggs, you've got your incubation medium, you've got your cup all set up. The best part about crested geckos compared to other reptiles is, this is a common misconception with crested geckos, is they're like other reptiles and their eggs are super fragile. With most snakes, you can't turn the egg, or the embryo will detach from the wall and drown, you'll kill the egg. You can't jostle them, you can't move them. Even leopard geckos, I believe, are much more fragile, whereas crested geckos, as you can see, not fragile at all. I just pull them on out of here, there they are. You don't have to worry about keeping them steady, you don't have to worry about being super absolutely careful, otherwise you're going to kill the gecko inside. You don't even have to worry about marking the top. That's another myth, is a lot of people say that you need to candle the egg, which means to shine a light through it, see which side the embryo is on, it looks like a little red Cheerio, and make sure that's at the top of the egg, and then carefully place it in. And then some people use a marker or a Sharpie to mark the top of the egg so they know that that's always the top and it doesn't get rotated. All of that is complete nonsense. None of it matters with crested geckos. Now, let me follow that up by saying with other reptile species, all of that can be very important. So research the exact species you're breeding before you take my advice, because this is strictly crested geckos. But crested gecko eggs are so durable that you can literally pick them up, spin them around like this. There's people at home freaking out right now that breed other reptiles, I promise you, will not harm them. These eggs are from a very, very high-end tricolor extreme harlequin group, and I promise you, I'm like, these could be very expensive, very high-end future breeder geckos for me and these eggs, and I have no qualms about spinning them. They're just that durable. So, don't worry too much about pulling them out. You don't have to baby them. It makes it really nice. Obviously, be careful with them. You don't want to drop them or anything, but just pull them right out, dig them out of the substrate, and then I just kind of gently massage them down so they just sit sunken into the substrate a little bit there, and you're good to go. As long as your substrate is nice and damp. Like I said, there should not be any standing water at the bottom. Just as much water as the clay substrate will soak up. Put the lid on it, and they're ready to incubate. I would always write the date that they were laid on the top so you know about what time they're going to hatch. Depending on the temperature that you incubate at, crested gecko eggs can incubate anywhere from 50 to 120 days. Obviously, that's a pretty big range. Realistically, you want to be shooting for the 100-day mark. 50 days is way too short. If you incubate them really warm, up near 80 degrees, you can get them to hatch that fast, but there's no reason to. You get smaller hatchlings, higher fatality rates, smaller geckos, less healthy geckos. It's not worth it. You don't want that. You want big, robust, healthy geckos. Lower incubation temperatures also produce bigger heads. Your crests are bigger, your geckos are bigger, better structure all around. That's the way you want to go. The ideal temperature I found is between 68 and 72 degrees. Anywhere in that range is perfect. I usually shoot for 68 to 70 degrees, and that range is where I try and incubate my eggs. Now, how do you incubate them? Well, I have here the Exo Terra Reptile Heating Cooling Incubator. This incubator is fantastic because unlike a traditional incubator with most species that need to be held warmer, crested gecko eggs in most cases actually need to be cooler than your room temperature. This incubator is actually a cooling incubator as well as a heating, so it will keep your eggs colder. This one actually goes down all the way down to 39 degrees, which is obviously way too cold. But you can set it at 68 and it will work perfectly for your geckos. I am doing a full product review on this incubator. Keep an eye out on the channel for that. It's going to be one of the next videos coming up. So if you want more information on this exact incubator, a full product review is coming. But spoiler alert, I really like it. Great incubator. This is a good choice to incubate your gecko eggs. If you don't have the money for an incubator, don't worry, you don't need one. You can incubate these guys right at room temperature. Nothing wrong with that. It works great. If even anything like just finding a cooler spot in your house to set your egg cases. Anything, if you have one of these, a stack of deli cups, whatever you're using, just find the coolest spot in your house. A lot of times it's in the basement. On the floor in the basement is usually the coolest spot. Bathrooms tend to be cooler just because they're tile and not carpeted, and people usually shut the heat off in the bathrooms. They stay cooler. Anywhere like that where it stays cool, especially during the summer months, that's where you want to put your eggs. Just set them there. Check them every week or so, and as I said earlier, how you can look at the substrate, and when it starts getting more tan and lighter colored, that means there's less moisture in it. Just make sure that there's plenty of moisture in here, over the course of the 100-day incubation, I'll usually spray them down a little bit, add a little moisture about twice. So every, I don't know, 35 to 40 days or so, I'll add a little bit of moisture just to make sure they've got enough and they're not getting dried out. And that's it. After that, you just sit around, wait. You'll see the eggs begin to plump up. They'll get bigger as they grow. And depending on your temperature, about 100 days later, you'll have some gecko hatchlings. It's that easy. So, if you guys have any questions, if there's anything you think I missed, anything you've heard that you want to ask about, hit me up with some comments down below. I love to talk geckos, like I always say, so I'm happy to talk about it down below. Let me know if there's anything that you guys do different, anything you think I missed. AltitudeExotics.com, all your gecko needs, Facebook, Instagram, you know the deal. Like, subscribe,